situation. She gave Bethany a measured look and said calmly, "Thank you for confirming my reservation. I'll take my seat now." Her tone was polite, yet there was an unmistakable authority behind her words. Serena wasn't one to create a scene unless absolutely necessary, but her patience was being tested. Bethany hesitated, clearly dissatisfied, but walked away without another word. Serena picked up the menu and tried to focus on choosing her meal. However, the unease lingered. Moments later, a middle-aged man in a tailored suit approached her table. He introduced himself as the restaurant owner, Mr. Callahan. His expression was no warmer than Bethany's had been. "I've been informed of some irregularities," he began, his tone condescending. "We have strict policies here, and I must ensure that all our guests adhere to them." Serena raised an eyebrow, setting the menu down. "I'm not sure what irregularities you're referring to, Mr. Callahan. My reservation was confirmed, and I've complied with all your policies." Mr. Callahan didn't seem interested in her response. Instead, he gave a pointed glance at her understated attire and continued, "This is a high-profile establishment. We cater to a certain clientele, and I need to make sure everyone feels comfortable." Serena leaned back slightly, her composure unshaken despite the blatant insult. "Are you suggesting that my presence here makes your other guests uncomfortable?" she asked, her voice calm but with an edge that hinted at the power she wielded. Mr. Callahan faltered for a moment but quickly recovered. "Not at all. I am simply stating that we maintain a particular standard, and I have to uphold it." Serena studied him silently for a moment. Then, with a serene smile, she replied, "I see." "Thank you for your concern, Mr. Callahan. However, I'm here to enjoy a meal, not to discuss your assumptions about me. Unless there's a legitimate reason for this conversation, I'd appreciate it if you'd allow me to dine in peace." By now, other patrons were paying closer attention. Some whispered among themselves, while others shifted uncomfortably. Mr. Callahan seemed to notice the growing attention and, realizing he might be pushing too far, reluctantly stepped back. "Very well," he said stiffly. "Enjoy your meal." As he walked away, Serena couldn't help but feel a mixture of frustration and determination. She was used to fighting battles like this, but it never got easier. She took a deep breath, deciding to focus on her evening despite the sour start. What neither Bethany nor Mr. Callahan realized was that their actions had set a chain of events into motion. Unbeknownst to them, another diner had been quietly observing the entire encounter, a journalist who recognized Serena and had his camera discreetly capturing every moment. This story, he knew, was more than just a display of discrimination. It was a moment of reckoning for those who believed in judging others by appearances. What would happen next would not only change the lives of Bethany and Mr. Callahan, but also spark a broader conversation about bias, privilege, and respect. Serena's quiet resilience, as always, would pave the way for something far greater than herself. Charlotte's eyes, her calm demeanor unwavering despite the blatant insult. "Perhaps you should consider what kind of environment you're fostering here," Serena said, her voice steady but sharp. "I've done nothing wrong, yet I'm being treated as though my presence is an inconvenience." Charlotte's brow furrowed, her annoyance deepening. "This is a high-profile establishment," she replied curtly. "We reserve the right to ensure the comfort and standards for all our patrons." Serena tilted her head slightly, her expression unyielding. Comfort and standards, she repeated, her voice cutting through the room like a blade. It seems those words have been twisted here to justify discrimination. I reserved my table, followed every policy, and have been met with nothing but hostility since I walked in. The murmurs among the diners grew louder. Charlotte glanced around, noticing the growing attention. Her frustration was evident, but she doubled down. "We have to be selective, Ms. Jackson," Serena said evenly. "Serena Jackson." The name landed like a thunderclap. A hush fell over the restaurant as the realization set in for many of the patrons. And for Charlotte, it was a moment of visible shock. She stammered, "Serena Jackson, the business magnate?" "Yes," Serena confirmed with quiet authority, "and I'd appreciate being treated with the same respect you afford every other guest here, regardless of my status, appearance, or skin color." Charlotte's expression shifted from defiance to unease. She seemed to sense the gravity of the situation now that the public eye was firmly on her. "I apologize if there's been any misunderstanding," she said, her tone losing its edge but still lacking sincerity. Serena remained composed, though her gaze carried the weight of someone who had endured this battle far too many times. "The misunderstanding," she said, "is thinking that such treatment would go unnoticed or unchallenged. You've shown your guests exactly how you define respect and who you think deserves it." Charlotte opened her mouth to respond, but Serena raised her hand slightly, silencing her. "Let me make one thing clear," Serena said firmly. "This is not just about me. Your staff and management need to reflect on the biases that led to this moment. You owe more than an apology. You owe change." The room was silent except for the faint rustling of a few patrons shifting uncomfortably in their seats. The weight of Serena's words lingered in the air. Charlotte, visibly flustered, nodded stiffly and muttered, "Of course, Miss Jackson. We'll address this immediately." Bethany, who had returned to observe from a distance, stood frozen, her earlier confidence now replaced by visible regret. Serena turned her attention to her and said, "The next time someone walks into this restaurant, treat them with the dignity they deserve before you know who they are." With that, Serena picked up the menu, signaling she was done engaging. The crowd of diners seemed to hold their collective breath, many looking at Serena with newfound admiration. The powerful moment was a reminder that standing up to prejudice requires not just strength, but grace and resilience. Actions. Serena turned and walked out of the restaurant, her steps deliberate and composed, her dignity intact despite the blatant humiliation she had just endured. The silence in the room was deafening, and the weight of what had just transpired lingered in the air. As the door closed behind her, Charlotte stood frozen, her confidence wavering for the first time. The realization of what she had done began to dawn on her as murmurs broke out among the diners. Some looked at her with disbelief, others with disgust, while a few turned their attention to their plates, unwilling to confront what they had just witnessed. Outside the restaurant, Serena stopped briefly, her breath steady despite the turmoil within. She pulled out her phone and began typing, her fingers moving with purpose. This incident wasn't going to be ignored, and the world would soon know about the discrimination she had faced. Within moments, a social media post began to take shape. Its words precise and powerful, describing the events with unwavering clarity. Accompanying it was a photo of her water-streaked face, her expression firm and unbroken. Serena knew the power of her voice and her platform, and she was ready to use both to hold the restaurant accountable. Back inside, the tension had shifted. Diners exchanged whispers, their discomfort growing as they began to question their own silence. Charlotte, still rooted to the spot, felt her authority slipping away as the reality of the situation set in. Bethany stood nearby, her expression a mix of guilt and fear, realizing the fallout that was sure to come. What neither of them could predict was just how far-reaching the consequences of this moment would be, not just for the restaurant, but for the broader conversation it would ignite about prejudice, accountability, and the power of standing up for what is right. To prepare a case against the restaurant, focusing on the blatant acts of discrimination and public humiliation she had endured. This isn't just about me, Serena emphasized. This is about sending a clear message that such behavior is unacceptable, no matter who the target is. Serena's leadership team quickly got to work, mobilizing resources to execute her vision. The Public Relations Department began drafting statements to address the incident once it became public, ensuring the narrative reflected Serena's commitment to justice and equality. Meanwhile, the legal team initiated investigations, gathering testimonials from potential witnesses, and reaching out to other customers who may have faced similar treatment at the restaurant. As Serena's plan unfolded, word of the incident began to spread. The power of her reputation and influence, coupled with the details of the story, sparked widespread outrage. Social media buzzed with discussions about discrimination and accountability, with many expressing support for Serena's stance. News outlets picked up the story, amplifying its reach and igniting conversations about the need for systemic change in how businesses treat their patrons. Back at the restaurant, Charlotte and Bethany began to feel the repercussions of their actions. Customers canceled reservations, and the establishment's once polished reputation quickly crumbled under public scrutiny. Facing pressure from all sides, Charlotte tried to defend her actions in a hastily arranged press conference, but her lack of remorse only fueled the backlash. Serena, however, remained composed and strategic. She chose her public appearances carefully, delivering a powerful message during a nationally televised interview. "This isn't just about what happened to me," she said, her voice calm yet resolute. "It's about ensuring that no one, regardless of their background, is ever made to feel unwelcome or less than simply for walking into a place meant for everyone." Her words resonated, inspiring countless others to share their own experiences with discrimination and pushing for changes in corporate policies across industries. Serena's resolve and determination transformed a moment of personal humiliation into a movement for justice, showing the world the power of standing up against prejudice and advocating for dignity and equality for all. Prejudices such as race, appearance, or perceived social status. Each testimony painted a clearer picture of the pervasive bias within Charlotte's restaurant and strengthened the case Serena was building. Serena met with her team regularly, reviewing the growing stack of evidence with a calm but resolute demeanor. "Every story matters," she reminded them. "Every voice deserves to be heard. Let's ensure no one feels invisible in this process." Her words motivated the team to go above and beyond, turning what started as one incident into a movement for systemic accountability. As the investigation gained momentum, the PR department crafted a carefully worded statement highlighting Serena's commitment to justice without sensationalizing the incident. "Our goal is fairness and respect for all," the statement read. "This is not just about one individual, but about standing up against any practice that undermines dignity and equality." Meanwhile, word of Serena's actions began to spread beyond her immediate circle. Activists, community leaders, and even influential figures in the hospitality industry reached out, expressing solidarity and offering their support. Serena welcomed the attention, not for personal gain, but to amplify the message she was trying to convey. One evening, Serena met with a group of legal experts and civil rights advocates who had heard about her efforts. They discussed not just the case against the restaurant, but broader initiatives to address discrimination in the service industry. "This is an opportunity to create lasting change," one advocate said. Serena nodded, feeling more emboldened than ever. As the investigation unfolded, Charlotte's restaurant faced increasing scrutiny. Media outlets began reporting on the growing number of testimonies, and customers started avoiding the establishment. Online reviews tanked, and calls for accountability echoed across social media. Charlotte, once defiant, found herself scrambling to contain the fallout. Serena, however, remained focused. She wasn't interested in revenge, but in ensuring that her actions led to meaningful reform. "This isn't just about punishing bad behavior," she told her team during a meeting. "It's about setting a standard of respect and fairness that others can follow." By the end of the week, Serena's team had compiled an extensive report detailing the discriminatory practices at the restaurant, backed by compelling evidence and testimonies. They prepared to take legal action while also working on a broader campaign to promote equity in the hospitality industry. Serena stood before her team, looking at the determined faces of those who had worked tirelessly alongside her. "This is only the beginning," she said with quiet resolve. "We've taken the first step toward change, but there's much more to do. Let's make this count, not just for us, but for everyone who deserves to be treated with the respect they are owed." As she walked back to her office, Serena felt a renewed sense of purpose. What had started as a moment of personal humiliation had transformed into a mission for justice and reform. She was no longer just a voice against prejudice, she was a force for change. Enough on its own, she made it clear that true accountability required more than words. It demanded action. Her legal team ensured that the terms of the settlement included mandatory reforms at Charlotte's restaurant. These measures included comprehensive cultural sensitivity training for all staff, the establishment of a transparent complaint resolution system, and regular audits to ensure fair treatment of all customers. Charlotte's public apology and commitment to change were widely reported in the media, turning the once controversial incident into a lesson in accountability. Customers who had previously felt powerless now felt their voices were finally heard, and many reached out to thank Serena for her courage and perseverance. Meanwhile, Serena continued her broader mission within her own organization. She worked closely with her team to roll out the new training programs and feedback mechanisms across her restaurant chain. The initiatives were met with widespread support as employees recognized the value of creating a more inclusive and respectful service culture. Serena's actions began to spark conversations beyond her company. Industry leaders took note of her efforts, and several began implementing similar reforms in their establishments. Advocacy groups praised her approach, calling it a model for addressing discrimination in the service industry. Through it all, Serena remained focused, knowing that the fight for fairness didn't end with one victory. She saw this as the beginning of a larger movement, one that would challenge outdated norms and set new standards for how customers are treated. Her determination inspired others to speak out against injustice and demand change in their own communities. As the weeks turned into months, the impact of Serena's actions became undeniable. Her name became synonymous with integrity and leadership, not because of her position, but because of the principles she upheld. The incident that once humiliated her had transformed into a catalyst for change, both within her company and across the industry. Serena knew the journey was far from over, but she felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that her struggle had paved the way for others to be treated with the respect and dignity they deserved. With each step forward, she remained steadfast, committed to creating a world where no one would have to face the discrimination she once endured. The trust and reputation her business relied upon. These exercises, though uncomfortable, opened her eyes to the toxic environment she had unknowingly fostered. Charlotte began taking the training seriously, no longer seeing it as a formality, but as a genuine opportunity to improve herself and her business. She met with her staff regularly, encouraging open conversations about their experiences and attitudes, and she acknowledged her own failings openly. For the first time, she saw her role as a leader in a new light, not just as someone who enforces rules, but as someone responsible for setting an example of respect and fairness. Bethany, too, began to change. As she embraced the lessons from the training, she started treating customers differently. She listened more attentively and responded with empathy, taking pride in creating a welcoming atmosphere for all. Her shift in attitude didn't go unnoticed. Both her colleagues and regular customers began to see her in a new, more positive light. As weeks passed, the impact of the changes rippled through Charlotte's restaurant. Customer feedback improved dramatically, with many praising the newfound warmth and professionalism of the staff. Former customers who had felt unwelcome returned, curious to see if the promises of reform were genuine, and left feeling satisfied and respected. For Serena, the transformation of Charlotte's restaurant was a powerful reminder of why she had fought so hard. It wasn't just about addressing a single incident or seeking justice for herself. It was about creating a lasting change in how people are treated, regardless of their background. The reforms didn't stop with Charlotte's restaurant. Inspired by the public attention and the visible results, other establishments in the service industry began adopting similar training programs and reviewing their practices. Serena's efforts sparked a broader conversation about fairness and equality in customer service, encouraging others to take a stand against discrimination. Serena continued her mission, driven by the belief that small actions could lead to big changes. She knew that not every fight would end in victory, and not every individual would be willing to change, but she remained undeterred. For every Charlotte or Bethany who resisted at first, there were countless others who needed someone to lead the way. The road ahead was long, but Serena's resolve only deepened. She had turned a moment of humiliation into a movement for respect, and she knew that with persistence, empathy, and courage, real progress was possible. And began leaving positive reviews, praising the newfound warmth and inclusivity of the staff. Former patrons who had avoided the establishment returned, curious to see if the changes were genuine, and left impressed by the transformation. Charlotte's restaurant, once a place marred by discrimination, was now recognized as an example of how businesses could evolve when held accountable. Serena watched from a distance as the ripple effects of her actions continued to grow. She saw not only a shift in Charlotte and Bethany, but also a broader impact on the community and the industry. Other restaurant owners began to take note, implementing similar training programs and revisiting their policies to ensure fairness and respect. Serena's determination to stand up for what was right had ignited a movement that extended beyond the walls of Charlotte's restaurant. Bethany, now a mentor to newer staff, found purpose in helping others avoid the mistakes she had made. She often reflected on how her biases had clouded her judgment and took pride in fostering a welcoming environment for all. Her story became a testament to the power of self-reflection and growth, inspiring her colleagues to follow suit. Charlotte, meanwhile, embraced her role as a reformed leader. She actively worked to rebuild trust with her customers and her team, frequently engaging in discussions about how to further improve the restaurant's culture. She even partnered with local organizations to support diversity and inclusion initiatives, turning her past mistakes into a platform for advocacy and education. Serena, although proud of the progress, remained focused on her larger goal. She continued advocating for systemic change within the service industry, using her own experience as a catalyst for dialogue and action. She spoke at industry events, sharing her story and urging leaders to prioritize fairness and respect in their businesses. The transformation of Charlotte's restaurant was just one step in a much larger journey. For Serena, the true victory lay in seeing the industry begin to shift toward a future where every customer, regardless of background, could feel valued and respected. As she reflected on the progress made, she knew the fight wasn't over, but she felt confident that the seeds of change she had planted would continue to grow. From simple gestures like warm smiles to attentive handling of requests, customers noticed a remarkable shift in the restaurant's atmosphere. Those who once felt unwelcome or judged now experienced genuine respect and inclusion. Positive reviews began flooding social media and review platforms, steadily restoring and even elevating the restaurant's reputation. Soon, Charlotte's restaurant system became a model of positive transformation in the service industry. Customers from all backgrounds chose the establishment not just for its food, but for its unwavering commitment to fairness and respect. For many, it became more than a dining venue. It became a haven where everyone felt valued. Recognizing the success of these changes, Charlotte decided to expand the training programs. She implemented new policies, encouraging employees to participate in community initiatives, fostering empathy and understanding across diverse social groups. The evolution of her business brought not just a renewed reputation, but a sense of pride in creating a space everyone could appreciate. Although Serena no longer directly participated in the restaurant's transformation, she quietly observed the progress, feeling gratified by the impact she had sparked. Letters of gratitude from Charlotte and Bethany, along with reports of positive changes, were testaments to the far-reaching effects of her perseverance. Serena knew that her efforts had transcended personal justice, influencing how businesses valued their customers and employees. Her story spread beyond the restaurant, inspiring other service industry businesses to reevaluate their corporate cultures and training programs. Business owners began to recognize the importance of treating customers and employees with fairness and dignity, regardless of background. The change Serena had initiated rippled through the industry, reshaping systems with values of inclusivity and respect. Serena's journey became a case study in seminars and workshops, exemplifying how determination and a belief in justice could drive profound systemic change. She continued her advocacy, supporting organizations that championed diversity and fairness in the workplace. By funding training programs, she helped businesses embrace equitable practices and reject outdated biases. Her work established her as a symbol of change, a powerful force who turned personal adversity into a movement for compassion and equality. Serena proved that persistence could replace prejudice with understanding, creating an environment that uplifted everyone. Reflecting on her journey, Serena felt fulfilled. She had not only fought for her own justice, but had sparked a broader transformation, touching lives and altering perspectives. The principles she championed began to take root, spreading hope and fairness far beyond the restaurant walls. Months later, Serena was honored at an event celebrating individuals who had made meaningful contributions to their communities. Standing before a room of attentive listeners, she spoke with calm strength. "This isn't just my story," she said. "It's a story of perseverance, about how we can transform pain into progress and rebuild systems with fairness and respect. When we stand up for our rights, we defend values that allow society to thrive." The applause was heartfelt, but Serena's focus remained on the connections she had forged. Among the crowd were Charlotte and Bethany, who had moved from being part of the problem to allies in building a better future. After the event, Charlotte approached Serena with gratitude. "Thank you," she said earnestly. "Thank you for helping us grow and change." Serena replied, "Change isn't the end. It's the beginning of a better path. What matters is being open to learning and improving." As she left, Serena felt a profound peace. Her story had left a mark not only on the restaurant, but on the lives of those who heard it, proving that courage and perseverance could inspire lasting change. The values she had fought for would continue to ripple outward, creating a more inclusive, compassionate world. With quiet confidence, Serena stepped into the light, knowing her journey had shown how determination could transform discrimination into a legacy of respect. Her story stood as a reminder that anyone can be a guiding light, shaping a world where fairness and dignity are shared by all.